Now let's start with this. So how many persons here identified as feminists before this TOT workshop? Habib, Dr. Okezie. Okay. You identified as a feminist before this workshop? No, feminist. Feminist. Okay. Sir, before this workshop, yes. Okay. Professor Gaga, please, can you come up? Yes, please. Dr. Samuel, please. Please come up, yes. Habib, please come up. No, I just want 3 persons. You identify as a male feminist before this workshop, or as a feminist. Please come and sit. So I didn't pre-inform you because I want you to speak from your heart. I don't want you to premeditate the answers to the questions I will be asking. Okay, so we're going to have a panel session, and to be an interesting session. So let's start by getting to know you, your name, and maybe a brief about yourself. Right? So I'll start with Habib.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Habib Balogun. I am a co-founder and the executive director for Access to Learning and School Initiative, or Atlas Initiative. We're based in Lagos. I'm a youth champion, a gender advocate, as well as a sustainability champion in the space of work that we do here.
Thank you. Let's clap for Habib.
My name is Ogago Rene Ifodo. I'm a lawyer, writer, and scholar. I've been involved in activism right from my days at the university, where Otiva and I belong to the same student radical group. We're members of Women in Nigeria. That is why I proudly identify myself as a feminist even before this conference workshop.
Welcome. Let's welcome Professor Ogaga.
Well, I'm Dr. Samir Haluru. I'm Deputy Director, Center for Gender Studies, Bayero University, Kano, and I think I've been involved with activism for a very long time, since my student days, as an undergraduate student, and also later when I went for my Master's and PhD program in the UK, which I studied lifelong learning, social justice, and social change, which is all about issue of taking care of the vulnerable groups, including women and people who are at disadvantage. So I think I'm a gender advocate. I'm based in Kano. I think that's all I can say.
Yeah, let's welcome Dr. Samuel. So welcome to this panel session on Meet a Male Feminist. Now the first question is, who is on the board? How did you come to embrace feminism? How did you come to embrace feminism as a person? What convinced you to become a feminist? Yes, just brief. Yeah.
Okay, for me, yes, for me, as I said, I've been involved in activism and supporting women's cause for a very long time. I always look at the women who are mostly neglected and at disadvantage within so many communities. So I think based on that, I stood out to always challenge things which are counter to the women progress and development. So I think that has become part of my life, and I've been doing it, and I'm still doing it. I think that's why I identify myself as belonging to the.
Mine, in retrospect, and this is going to probably sound surprising, that's why I say in retrospect, I became a feminist when I was about 6 years old. My father died when I was a year old. And my mother's, out of my mother's 4 children, I'm the last born and the only boy. I was inseparable from her. So much so that one of the most prominent members of our community then called me Augusta's poodle. Now, Augusta is my mother's name, a baptismal name, but of course the folks in my Isoko language, we bend it to our own more lyrical way of saying the name. So Augusta is Augusita. I said, Amanako, Aranko is a dog. Amanako is a small dog. Amanako, Augusita. Because anywhere my mother was, there I was. I was inseparable from her. Now, my mother had an uncle who was, well, like the bottle a little bit, let's put it that way. And one evening, he came home, was hungry, wanted food. My mother had not got any food ready yet. And he hit my mother. He was drunk, of course, but he hit my mother. And when I saw that, and my mother was basically just trying to suppress crying, I said, "Mother." And then I first said it, I said it in Isoko. Ne, wovye, omaha, with tobacco, which is to say, "Mother, don't cry. Will the child not become a man?" Now, all my mother's mates kept reminding me of this later in life, especially when I became an activist. That's why I said, in retrospect, looking back, I consider that that moment, that pivotal moment, was when I became a feminist.
Okay, for me, I would say I was born a feminist, if you would accept that, because I was born into a family that didn't do things the usual way that we would see society doing. Where from a very young age, I see my father washing his own clothes. Sometimes we come back from school in the afternoon, my mom is not at home, she has gone to work, and he's on break, he cooks. You know, we have 4 boys, or we had 4 boys, one is late now, and 1 girl. I'm the last born, and I didn't really get to grow up with the first 2 or 3 of them, or 2 of them. So the rest of us were boys. Our sister was never around, so we had nothing like, oh, this is the girl's job, this is the boy's job. We were all raised. There is no moment my mom will come out to the kitchen and you are not there. Even if you are not doing anything, you are there watching. And that's kind of how I learned how to cook. I remember my grandma, before she died, when she used to tell me that in Yoruba, she used to say, "Obìnrin ò ní fi ẹ́ ṣakọ," because I was so good at cooking for her all the time. I used to take care of her. So I believe this family culture that I grew up in put me through that line, and it led me on my way to this work where I became a gender activist, always wanting to ensure that the young girls have modes of empowerment with knowledge and skills of themselves. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Habib. Let's clap for Habib. Interesting story. The second question. What resistance did you face from family, peers, or institutions when you became a feminist? What resistance did you face? Did you face any resistance from peers, from institutions? Did they call you names?
Well, yeah. I think there have been times where people see what I do as not normal. There's this friend of mine of recent who came to my house. I recently got married, so he came to visit me, and he found out I was in the kitchen. I think I was doing dishes at that time. And he was like, no, this is not right. And in my head, I was like, what's wrong in it? What's wrong there? I'm doing whatever it is I want to do, not because anyone told me to. In that sense. So yeah, on different levels. The time from my NYSC, when I came back from my university, from my NYSC is when I started volunteering and towing the line of development. And always, even till today, my mother thinks I still don't have a job, because she thinks I'm just doing charity work for free, or what. She doesn't understand why I'm advocating for these things. But then we push on, we move on despite all of
Let's
that.
Appreciate Habib again.
I don't recall any specific resistance I faced just on the question of being a feminist, because like I said, becoming an activist was seeing all oppressions as inextricably linked. So it wasn't as if I came out to strictly do only feminist advocacy. In our work, in our activities, we saw all oppressions as linked. And then more than that also is that at home, it's not necessarily that people feel that it is wrong to be a feminist. I think it's the way, that's part of what we'll be discussing. For instance, when we say, look, what definition, what school, what model of feminism are we advocating? If you reduce it to the basic minimum of justice, being fair, being non-discriminating, I don't think generally you face any resistance. But if you couch it in terms of a hierarchy of man is on top and woman is coming to displace man, that's when you are likely to face some kind of resistance. So just because we saw all struggles as linked and we never isolated feminism as a strand, which we wore on our foreheads, I did not face any particular resistance. If anything, I will even say it was encouragement. Now, just to go back to what Habib said, I also had a similar upbringing. My father died when I was a year old, I said, but my father's brother, my uncle, who was well-educated, but also a very staunch Christian, was the one that raised me and trained me all the way to the university. But in our house, there was no discrimination. Everybody participated in household chores. And I can even say that it was because of certain peculiarities about his own life. He had trouble having children, so I became like his adopted son. It was harder on me for that very reason. It was like, you have to do more because you are my son, more or less, So if I'm even complaining about doing housework, he doesn't want to listen to that. I had to do more. So I never, at any point in time, saw distinctions, and nobody in my immediate growing up environment thought that some things are reserved for girls and some reserved, for boys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Let's clap for you. So, Dr. Samuel, as someone in the north, in Kano,
you see,
what particular resistance?
whenever you have taken a position of trying to change the status quo, you understand, whenever you have taken a position to the left, you understand people see you as controversial, and sometimes whatever you brought in, they resist it. They don't take it easily. They say, this is controversial. Most of these idols, you discover that they are idols that are challenging things that have become so entrenched in our society, which are taken us backward. Once you are fighting those things that are taking us backward, that's definitely you face a serious resistance and you continue to be a controversial figure. Nobody will continue to understand you. Every time you'll be marked differently. So as rightly mentioned by my colleagues here, I think the way we were brought up in my house, I remember my dad was, he's been very fair to us. All of us, about 10 of us are male and about 4 are female. And we are taken, within the same platform, we are treated. My father happens to be a strong reader of Marxist, idols. And since when I was growing, I was introduced to some of those literatures, that try to empower us to understand what are those things that are giving us trouble. How do we overcome them? This is how we were brought up. And I was telling a colleague here, I think that apart from the literature, I think is innate in us. There was a letter I received from my grandpa, which was written to him by British in 1945. He is such a person that always asks questions. He wrote a protest letter, asking about something, and the reply by the British, and he shared the letter with me and said, read this letter. Once you've seen anything not right, try to ask questions, try to seek for clarification. Once you've done, so he remained a very controversial figure, you understand, because all the time he's asking questions and he's facing some resistance. And I still have a copy of the letter with me, which I'm very proud of, and has become part of my life, to always go to, yes, thank you.
Let's clap for Dr. Samuel. Thank you so much. Yeah. Second to the last question. That's my screen. How has it affected your relationship, leadership, and faith? How has being a feminist affected your relationship with your spouse, and your faith?
Well, I think to me it is very clear. I know my boundaries, especially my religion, the religion of Islam. You see, it has really given an opportunity to always try to be fair and just to everyone. I think I don't have any problem with the faith, because as I rightly said in one of the previous discussions, is that through the religion, it was said that we should care about the women, the children, the orphan, the elderly people. We all have to be taken. And we were warned, do not oppress and not be oppressed. So I think I don't have any problem with that religion. But some of the problems we always face is leadership. You see, within a particular organization, you discover that there is a sin, which always said that those people who are looking after vets, they don't want you to raise your hands. Once you raise your hands, they become jittered. You understand? They always see your approach as like challenging them, as trying to show that you understand they didn't fit with the situation. So they misunderstand situation. In fact, I understand that we have our limitation on how to approach leadership and whatever. I was having a conversation with one of the most important feminists in the UK, and she said, we are working for an institution. There are certain things that needs not to be said because they may be in different directions with the idols and whatever of the organization. So it has to be done mildly. And for my spouse, she is also a very critical person, and she always understands. And not only that, my daughter, who, when I'm invited to any program, you understand, when I'm not available, I will send her, and she'll always talk like a radical person. She started speaking to public when she was just 12. She'll represent me, and she'll speak like she's there for humanity. She's so critical about issues, and whenever she sees things, you understand, going in the opposite direction, she will have to ask questions and always challenge them. Yes, I think a story after my return from the UK with the same girl, we went to hospital that something is happening, and she began to challenge. She was just like then about 10 years or less. She was challenging the doctor. This is not right. And she remained the same. And she said that she will continue to work for humanity and for the development of humanity. And as I'm speaking to you, she said initially she wanted to become a medical doctor, but now she says she's no longer interested in becoming a medical doctor because that will not give her an opportunity to speak and express her view and defend people, especially the disadvantaged people. And she told me, not directly she told me, she was representing me in a program. She told the audience that she wanted to become a lawyer so that she can fight for humanity. And I always like the approach. So I think these trends, maybe is part of our life and has become part of our life to be very critical and to always ask questions. Thank you.
Yeah, same question.
The feminist dictum of the master's tools will not bring down the master's house. And also that question, whenever we're in doubt, whenever in a situation we seem not to be unclear what the exact power dynamics are and what constitutes oppression, how patriarchy is embedded in the action, is to ask, who benefits from this? We may think that, there were women even at the table when the decision was made. I beg your pardon. That there were women in the room when the decision was made. So be it. But who benefits? Because it is possible for women to be involved in a decision-making process framed by patriarchy that will still be detrimental, to their own interests. So that last question, who benefits, is one of the things that feminism taught me as a way of dealing with complex, nebulous situations, so that it makes it possible to cut through all of that and be able to plot a way to doing justice in that instance. And although it's not directly feminist dictum, while I was doing postgraduate studies in the US, in one of our seminars, one of the things that struck me and I've always held on to, I think it came out of a debate between Noam Chomsky and I think Michel Foucault, the question of human nature and what in the end, in terms of knowledge production, you cannot be derogated from, does not admit of review. It is this, that all humans are equal. That is the only one thing that does not admit of derogation, review, paring it, slicing it, dicing it. That one does not admit of any review. But every other knowledge claim is subject to review. In fact, it has to be subject to review. Otherwise, it is not knowledge production. It becomes dogma. So those two directly feminist principles and this, I can say, tangential but still related one are the ways in which feminism has helped me in my activism and beyond activism to even approaching knowledge production, dissemination, and the power, privileges, and other benefits that they confer.
Thank you so much. Let's clap for Prof.
Everybody has been calling me prof, but let me make this clear. I have a PhD, all right, but I'm not a prof. I was teaching in the university, all right, in the US, but I didn't want to wait to climb the professorial ladder to professor before I returned to Nigeria, because I felt it would be too late then, and I would not be able to come back. And many people who wait too long can't come back. So I actually left at the rank of assistant professor when I came. So I don't actually deserve to be called a prof. But if you wish, you can call me Dr. Ogaga Ifodo, because I earned that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That was very great. So to follow the KISS principle, right, keeping it short and simple, I think, it has definitely been a growth, an experience of growth. It has, in relationships with people, just because feminism is not really only about supporting the women or fighting for women. It's about equality. It's about equality of opportunity, of access to gain equity for all. So treating everyone with fairness has very well helped. In leadership, I've noticed that over time, the more I've supported women to be in leadership, it has come back, or they've always come back to also support whatever it is I do. So I don't think it's ever detrimental, and it has never affected my faith really. It has kept me here. Well,
thank you so much. The last question. The last question. What actions or achievements are you most proud of as a feminist? What actions or achievements are you most proud of as a feminist?
Okay, I am most proud of being able, through my organization, to send over 400 girls back to school, specifically girls, girl children back to school amongst all the other children. So yeah, it's a great feat for me. It's a great feat for my organization.
I think Habib is going to take the prize for this one. I can't say any specific action because I have not worked only in feminist activist group, and it's always been more of trying to deconstruct, within an organization that seeks to deconstruct male chauvinism and understand that men, being actually the chief perpetrators of chauvinism, have to also be in the forefront of retraining themselves, changing their behaviors, and so on. So what I'm proud of is that feminism gave me a tool that I use in addition to all the others, so that I don't remove that from my tool or my toolkit in everything that I do, so that at any moment when I see that a woman or the girl child is likely to be disadvantaged, to be discriminated against, or in any way to be oppressed, that I have the tools with which to speak out and ensure it doesn't happen. That is what I'm most proud of. So I would say the ideological, weapon that it has given me is what I'm most proud of, and I think I cannot quantify how that has, panned out, what immediate benefits, it has conferred.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. For me, one of the actions I have taken, especially after my return, I try to establish a Center for Research and Development in Social Justice, which is an NGO which is aimed at trying to empower women and vulnerable groups within the community for them to understand what are those issues that are taking them backward. I think because of some technical issues, the NGO is not in full operation, but from behind the scene, I'm working to support many disadvantaged people. I'm very happy to say that there are 2 or 3, 4 people who were opens. What I did to them was I tried to said that now you have to go to school, and then they were going to school, and then I linked them with some trades, some vocations, and they were doing it. And they are doing so well at the moment, and to my surprise, one of the guys recently, he was very proud, and asked him, what do I add to what you guys are doing? And he said, look, I have so much money that I'm empowered myself. I don't need, he knows I'm a teacher. I don't have much money to give him. But he said he has so much money. And what surprised me is he brought something worth 200,000 for me, one of the guys, about 4 of them, including a girl. So I think I'm very happy with these actions, and I always try to tell people it is very critical for us, wherever we are, to make sure that we have some actions, we make sure that we practicalize some of those actions, and we also give people opportunity for dialogue, interaction with them, some of the activities I'm doing. I think that's all. Thank you.
Let's appreciate our amazing panelists. Even though the panel session was impromptu, they spoke like they've prepared for years. So I want to take like 2-3 questions for them from the audience. Do you have a question, a burning question that you want them to respond to? Okay. Come with Howard.
Thank you. I want to thank our male panelists. I think your expressions are quite inspiring, even to those of us that are women. Thank you. I'll call you our male feminist champions. But then I just want to make reference to the third question. I'm not sure because it's a very interesting question. And I think that some of you did not really respond to that question. At least the last two speakers, Ogaga and Habib. I'm not sure because it's interesting for us to know how has it affected your relationship, your leadership position, and more importantly, your faith. You responded to the question, but I'm not sure the other two responded. So it would be interesting for us to hear from you. Thank
you. Is Hussein Abdul here? Oh, I need to have you come and respond to our, you know. Jokes apart. You know what you can say, so jokes apart. The truth of the matter is that, relationship, I don't think we can take that for granted. I don't think we need to really, any one of us sitting down here, any one of us who has participated in this workshop, we can take that for granted that we have, or at least let me just speak for myself, and from all I've said earlier, that I don't, even before becoming conscious or knowing anything called feminism, I was already a feminist, which means my attitude to women has always been feminist, even before I knew there's something called feminism as a movement, for change. Now, as regards leadership, I think it's also implied. I just said the weapon that feminism, constitutes is such a sharp and powerful one that without it, I will not be an effective activist. But put it in the most literal sense, you can't be an activist for half of humanity. And if we are men and women, male and female, irrespective of all the other identities, LGBTQI, I think essentially, at the end of the day, the reference points from where we are either intersectional or lesbian, gay, is that we're operating from man, woman. And you cannot be an activist for half of humanity if you really desire wholesome change. So that is the way, at the broad level, it affects my activism and my whatever leadership role I occupy. Or even you don't have to be in leadership role. Anytime you're speaking out, anytime you are being active for a cause, you already are a leader, because you are a leader of thought, you are able to influence others. Otiva gave a very good example of he being the first person, to wed, in his family, and how that, changed so much within the family. So I think once you are a feminist, unless you're faking it, unless you're pretending, once you are a feminist, that automatically affects your relationship and your leadership role. The only one that might be a little bit not too clear would be faith. Now, does faith have to be religious? If it is religious, then we're going to encounter some of they are not really insoluble differences, but some of those differences that have come out in the course of this workshop will appear. Up to the point this morning after our prayer, I felt inclined to now publicly voice whether we're going to have a Muslim prayer, we're going to also have a prayer by the African traditional religionist. And then if you go on along that line, you also go to those who are atheists, those who are agnostics, because we must respect, everybody's religious faith or non-religious, faith. Now, but if faith is in humanity, which to me is even the more all-embracing, more powerful faith in humanity, then, again, I can take it for granted that being a feminist automatically makes you one who believes in humanity and the advancement of humanity and elimination of all forms of discriminations, whether they be racial, cultural, any way you want to class, any way you want to describe them. Being a feminist automatically makes you a humanist and makes you have faith
indivisible, cannot be, I have it today and tomorrow I don't have it. Faith in all of humanity and for the progress, welfare, and advancement of all of humanity. I hope this answers your question. If it doesn't, then I will have to call Husseini Abdul.
Okay, I think I answered it the last time. I said that in my relationship, just like Dr. Gaga said, I've always been a feminist before I knew what there was something called feminism, because I believed in equal opportunity for all. I grew up in an environment where all were equal. We had all tribes, all religions. Everyone was equal. I grew up in Lagos. If we talk about faith, I think I'm a Muslim, so my faith personally, or my religion, has taught me to be a feminist. From my own point, the way I was raised in this religion is part of what taught me to be fair to all, to ensure that we find a way to be our brother's keeper, be our sister's keeper, be our neighbor's keeper. And then in leadership, I mentioned that I've personally seen result of times where I support women to be in leadership, and then it's at the end of the day, they by themselves, these women that I've supported, or these girls, they always come back to benefit me in one way or the other. So I've always I've always been of the notion that feminism isn't a one-sided thing. It's beneficial to all sides. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's clap more for our panelists. So you can go back to your seat. Thank you so much. Sorry, I put you on the spot. Okay. You can leave them. You can leave them. Okay, so the most effective male allies, as is in the manual, are not those who speak for women, but those who use their voice to amplify, not overshadow, women's struggles. I think we should be clear on this point, that male allies are not those who speak for women, but those who use their voice to amplify women's struggles. Now, let's look at the roles of male feminists. The roles of male feminists in advancing gender equality in Nigeria. And we will do that together. That should be on page 102. The roles of male feminists in advancing gender equality in Nigeria. Where's Praise? Okay, yeah, page 102. So let's, someone should read the first role. The role of male feminists in advancing gender equality in Nigeria. The first one, advocates. Okay, Malam.
Okay. Men who use their voices, platforms, and privileges to promote feminist values and demand justice for women and girls. They challenge discriminatory laws, speak out against gender-based violence, and mobilizes others.
Thank you very much. Advocates. Can you just speak to that? Just what do you understand by being an advocate as a male ally?
Okay, what this simply means is that men who represent in all ramifications, by their actions, by using the platforms, they use, be it the social media or organizations, to combat gender-based violence,
Yes.
and challenge, the laws, the primitive laws or traditions, which promote GBVs.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Advocates. The second one. Who is taking the second one? Allies. The second point. Okay.
Good morning. Allies. Men who stand in solidarity with women's rights organizations, amplifying rather than overshadowing feminist efforts. Allies listen, learn, take direction from women, and act without centering themselves. Okay. Yes.
The lie is clear. You want to speak to it?
Oh, okay. Just to say that I find myself around here because when you look at the scope of this, you see that these are people who are doing their regular engagements, like we work, you're in an organization where you focus on business or other interventions. However, wherever you are supporting this movement by your own authority and resources.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. The third role, Dr. Okuzie.
Behavioral models. Men who model positive masculinity, reject harmful norms, and demonstrate everyday feminist practice in relationships, parenting, leadership, and community life. They embody what respectful, egalitarian manhood looks like. Men, the behavioral model tends to project men who live the talk in leadership, in parenting, supporting the female folk, even in chores, in sharing duties, and in assigning leadership positions.
Thank you so much. The fourth one, on this side. I want someone from this side. Yeah.
Mentors and educators. Men who engage younger men and boys in critical conversations about gender, respect, and equity. They serve as coaches, teachers, and accountability partners in the journey of transformation. I think one of the role of male feminists in advocating and advancing gender equity is just for them to be mentors and educators to young folks and young minds, so as to lead them aright and to ensure that they serve as influencers to them so they don't get it wrong.
Yeah, well spoken. Thank you, Gabe. And the last point, the last one, the fifth role for male feminists. Someone here? Evis or Dr. Evis? Okay. No, I saw Evis answers.
So the last one here, we have policy influencers. Men who drive institutional change, whether in workplaces, faith spaces, or government. They push for gender-responsive laws, budget allocations, safer environment, and inclusive decision-making. So this is more like persons who work towards making sure women rights, like gender rights, in fact, women rights are not just there, understand? They push even for making sure allocation are budget towards making policies.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for. So we are clear on the 5 roles for male feminists and advancing gender equality in Nigeria. So I wanted to ask during the panel discussion, so do you think that men experience resistance to feminism different from women? Like the experience, if a woman declares herself as a feminist publicly, the resistance she experiences, do you think it's different from what men experience when they declare publicly that they are feminist? Okay. Okay. Come read.
In different ways. When a woman identifies as a feminist, she's looked at with a lot of disdain. She's a frustrated woman who probably is a divorcee, or she's old, she has not found a husband. You know, I mean, you have a lot of negative words that are very demeaning, that can be very, very dehumanizing, you know, used on the woman. For the man, that he's a for the man that he's a woman rapper, that this one maybe something negative is wrong with him. Now what it does, he has been charmed. What it does to the man, you know, the kinds of innuendos and the kinds of response you get to a male feminist, you know, is more tolerable than the kinds of response you get to a female feminist. So they are not usually the same weight. There are negative reactions, but the weight of the reactions are not the same. Thank you.
I just want to add to that about the men being called women rapper. There's a cook, my mother's cook, is a young man, very passionate, very, very passionate about my mom, more passionate than the ladies in the house. He would go ask my mom, what do you want? Can I kneel with her, hold her, hug her, and then do things for the others. And then the other girls started calling him woman rapper. So I asked him, I said, why do you say that? He said, he's too soft, he's too this, he's too that. I said, no. And I asked him, I said, how come why are you like this? He said he has a mom, he grew up with his mom, he never knew his dad. So all he knows is how to do things for women, to elevate women. His mother is bedridden, and she's been for many years. So you see, men get more, they attack more than the women. The women, well, just this one, you know, get husband, like Chimamanda Adichie. She's a feminist, and I've read what people have said about her. Oh, Ovasabi, no. You went and had 2 children by surrogacy. They abused her. But she's not sane. She's doing her own thing, you know, quietly. So it's different. They expect you as a woman where you can do it if you like. But when a man does it, it's a death sentence for you, more or less. No, I think for men, it is worse for men than for women. A woman is a woman, and you know these things. There's a tendency for you to want to exert yourself, okay? But a man should be seen as a man, you know. So the minute you step out of that zone, you show any kind of weakness, you are dead meat. That's it.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, after Austin.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. In fact, I was raising my hand earlier during that panel. That was a question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask from the room men who had that resistance and how they were able to navigate it. Maybe to be an interesting part to follow. But the question I wanted to now ask is for the ally. I like us to deconstruct a statement in the ally where he talked about taking direction from women. An ally is one who should take direction from women. And I think we should be very careful in the way we use statement like that. It's an ally, learn, listen, take direction from women. Habib Balogun just talked about how his mother did not believe he was working. So should it just be women, or we construct that direction that is more informative so that it doesn't look like a woman? For me, a woman is a woman, and a feminist doesn't necessarily be a woman. Thank you.
Okay, I noted some of the things that Hawa said. and it's true, the labeling. Now, for some reason, coincidentally, some of the women who are visible about this, some, not all, happen to have had issues with their marriages. They cut their hair low. They have issues, honestly. Not that, I mean, not that all of them are. For instance, Bende Madnagu, till she passed, had an incredibly wonderful relationship with her husband, Edwin. But there are a few other women who are visible in the media and in their communities. Maybe a lot of them educated, incidentally, who had issues with their marriages. So that portrayal now, when people see them, they see them as, use them as a whole to describe younger people who are tending towards getting into activism. So how do we deal with that portrayal, especially in the media and then in our communities? How do we deal with that?
It said they cut their head low. Okay. Okay, give to sir.
That I want to share. Number one, when we are passing the bill of violence against women in Ekiti, so I was one of those people who went there to defend the bill at the State House of Assembly. And somebody now called me, one of the assembly guys, a guy. He now said, come, what is your wood? He now called me a name, which I was also called in Ibadan. He now called a name. He said, it won't hear Balogun Obini. And since then, they've been calling me that name in Ekiti. That is Balogun Obini. That is, what's your problem? What's your concern? They are talking about women. You must be the warrior behind the women. And that name stick. So anytime I go to the House of Assembly, they will say, the Balogun has come. That's one. Then it took us almost 8 years for our organization to pass VAB law in Oyo State. Because as at that time, Mrs. Akonde happens to be the only woman out of 33 House of Assembly members. So they made her speaker. So she begged and begged and begged and begged, and they couldn't get it done. So the next assembly, we now went there to go and meet them. So they now saw me again that, Balogun, come here, come here, come here, come here. What are you doing? And I said, Balogun, so my wife felt somehow, they've tagged you. And I said, there's nothing bad in that. Balogun simply means a warrior behind the women. And so if I'm a warrior behind the women, so be it. So they will call you names. And after when we asked the man what really happened, he now said something. He said some of us married 2-3 wives. Now, if they pass this law, he said if they pass this law will empower the women against us. So he said, what about if my 3 wives now gag against me and started beating me in the house? So it took time and the support of DFID when we came with statistics to now show them that that is not what it meant. So we now explain. Then do you know that the men now rally land the law and they pass the law? Violence. But they said there are some words there that is ambiguity. They said we should go and water it down. But we said no. Let's just change the vocabulary surrounding it and make it simple. It's still the same thing. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Okay. Professor Oludare.
So at the public space and formal level of advocacy, I think getting men as allies accelerates outcome of advocacy. It is traditional for women to speak for. But anytime a male partner sets in and starts to speak for and on behalf to support the cause of gender equality, we get more outcome. I'm speaking from the experience of Ekiti State. The exploit that we have been able to give testimony of is when the Commissioner for Justice started to speak for and supporting the spirit and the principle of Dr. Mrs. Fayemi. They know him to be a no-nonsense person. He will always amplify the voice of the wife of the governor on all issues about gender equality and anti-GBV. And I know sometimes also myself, the public sector will call me to come and speak in the cause of gender equality and anti-GBV, policy level, legislative level. And the outcome has been very good. But sometimes also women themselves, when you look at their side, and it is their turn to speak, and they a little bit shaking in. And some of us will now take that boldness to speak, especially in the university that I'm coming from. In Senate, for instance, when there is likely to be appointment or election, and we look at the side of women, talk about equality now. They want to vote for 2 DVC, and they have already sent nominations, no woman. And some of us will raise up our hand to speak. Or the VC, they will know, Professor Oluwadare, do you have anything to say? They know what I want to say. Sometimes it's amplified, the gender equality drive. But if it is women that are talking, they know. Even before you start to speak, they already label you of what to see. And the effect will not be much. So we need more male involvement, more male voice. And that is why I want to align with what Austin said. Allies listen, learn, take direction. What do we mean by take direction? When at the level of methodology, at the level of principle, at the level of theory, at the level of what we monitoring and evaluation, we know what we want to say. And the women are not there even to speak for themselves. And I know this cause also affects my daughter at home, affects my wife at home, affects my mother even in the village. Can't I talk when there is no female voice? That is why we need to look at that take direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the next focus, bystander. Who is a bystander? A bystander is someone who is present when an incident of harassment, violence, or abuse occurs, but is not directly involved as the victim or the perpetrator. Now, in my opinion, if bystanders do something, there will be less cases of violence, or more violence would have been prevented if they just took the right action. Yeah, so we'll be talking about the skills to intervene as a bystander. If you are in a place where violence is happening, how do you intervene? And how do you intervene in a way that doesn't backfire on you, right? So we'll be looking at some stories. Yeah, active bystanders are those who intervene safely and collectively by speaking up, supporting victims, or challenging behaviors that promote GBV. So I will present 3 stories. The first is a story of a bystander who did nothing. The second is the story of a bystander who did something but in the wrong way and it backfired. Then the third is a story of a bystander who has been trained by the Male Feminist Network, intervened in the right way and got good outcome. So I want to pass the second mic to Comrade Agbamu to use his literary and English voice to read the stories for us. So just sit and...
Okay. Thank you very much. The passive bystander, doing nothing and losing everything. Chidi, a young banker in Enugu, was at a neighborhood football viewing center during a heated Nigeria versus Ghana match. The atmosphere was loud, filled with jokes, drinks, and arguments. Suddenly, he noticed one of his childhood friends, Uche, angrily confronting his girlfriend, Ada, outside the gate. Uche was shouting, grabbing Ada roughly by the arm and accusing her of embarrassing him in public. Chidi saw the tension. Other men around also noticed, but they muttered things like, "Na couple matter, leave them." Chidi told himself it wasn't his business. He focused back on the screen. Moments later, Uche slapped Ada hard, dragged her across the road, and disappeared into the darkness. By the next morning, the news spread like wildfire. Ada had been found unconscious after the beating and died before reaching the hospital. Chidi felt crushed. At Ada's burial, her younger brother stared at him with pain and whispered, "You were there. You could have done something." The guilt ate at Chidi for years. He realized that his silence as a bystander had indirectly cost someone's life and left a permanent scar on his conscience. Lesson: a passive bystander allows violence to grow unchecked. Doing nothing often has consequences not just for the big victim, but for the bystander's own peace of mind.
Thank you. Let's clap for Agbamu. Wow, that was a very good reading. So what other lesson can we learn from Chidi's story? Okay, Habib.
My lesson would be in form of a question. What would Chidi have done instead of saying na couples matter? What would he have done if that was his daughter, or if that was his sister that they were doing like that?
Okay, so let's see the second story because that will answer the question. Okay, what's the second story? So some of you must have seen this video, but I struggled. I didn't want to show it, but the video it traumatized me when I watched it for several reasons. It's graphic, it's gory. Should I play it or I should skip? Skip, right? Skip or play? Ma? I should not play it. Ma? Is that? Should I skip or play? All right. I should not play. So you see the camera person following them closely. It's not acting now.
There are people in the house.
Only protect herself. That's what she's It's okay. Please, it's okay. Listen.
Is he okay?
This is not good.
Let's see the head. Huh? So you see a bystander recording closely and following them. And she even made an attempt to escape. But they are still recording. So let's see the second story. Abamo.
The wrong intervention, rushing without skills. In Abuja, during a Friday evening hangout at a suya spot, Kunle saw a man violently arguing with his wife. The man threatened to hit her, and Kunle, wanting to be a hero, immediately jumped in. Without assessing the situation or thinking of his safety, Kunle grabbed the man's hand and shouted, "You are a useless man! Stop harassing your wife." The crowd gasped. The angry man, already intoxicated, turned on Kunle, shouting that he had no right to interfere in his family matters. A scuffle broke out. In the chaos, Kunle was punched, his shirt torn, and his phone stolen as the crowd dispersed. Worse still, the woman he wanted to defend quickly sided with her husband, yelling, "Leave us alone, it is our family issue." Kunle was humiliated, injured, and accused of overstepping. His good intention turned sour because he had intervened without tact, without assessing the risk, and without using the right strategies for bystander intervention. Lesson: rushing to intervene without the right skills can escalate violence and put the bystander at risk.
What can we learn from Kule? What lessons can we learn from Kule? Okay, let's hear from Malam.
Okay, I believe learning from the second story is best. One, assess the full situation and make a strategic entry, to avoid such embarrassment, not to swiftly act so that it will lead to embarrassment. And sincerely speaking, I cannot conclude watching the first scenario. This is just watching, what has happened, So talk less of being in that position. Recording is very, very inhuman, I blame the person recording it, seriously, And if maybe, I think the lawyers here should, find a way, when such thing happen, he should equally be, I don't know what you call it, but yes, that is aiding and abetting, I think, or something like that, please, or an accomplice, because that is very inhuman, in nature. And to me, he is promoting it, what he did. So I think this is what I have.
I think I'll start with the first and second together, okay? Because you asked a question about the first, other lessons, and I think for the first, one of the other lessons is that oftentimes the outcome of a violent or potentially violent situation is not predictable. So let's not behave as if we can always predict. So if you look at that, maybe slap somebody and they are still arguing and you're bad drinking, okay? So maybe in a boyfriend-girlfriend matter. Now, oftentimes we don't predict how far that singular action can trigger other actions. And then before it becomes fatal. For example, assuming the person, they are shouting, my friend, get out, what's wrong? This one slap. Before it draw a knife and stab the person to death. You wouldn't, so I just want to be careful here. So we won't say that everybody who saw that situation could actually predict. So sometimes consequences seem unpredictable. The second lesson here, for the one key thing here actually is, again, the video
took too long, but we don't even know whether the person recording that was trying to preserve evidence. Assuming it was a child who could not intervene meaningfully and resort to recording, that's actually a help, because with this now, so the circumstances might be quite different and complex. But I think the key lesson for me is that intervention also has to, it has to be also sometimes several factors. I'll give an example. In US, where they do a lot of adverse litigation, if somebody is fallen, for example, and you want to help that person, and he stumbles, and maybe an action contributes to fatality, you are liable. In fact, in those societies that are litigious, people don't even help anybody. Because you won't say, here in Nigeria, we say you're trying to say the person who can excuse you. But there, your good intention and action creates a consequence, you are liable. So we are seeing a society that is not litigious, where people are still free to intervene and there are no consequences. In some other societies, consequences are very difficult. So for me, therefore, I think the key thing here is, and that's why the issue of bystander, again, bystander imports wrongdoing by definition. Maybe a witness, for example, those who intervene are not logically speaking, bystanders. Those who didn't intervene could be called more appropriately bystanders. So maybe we can look at changing to those witness. You can witness active, you can witness do nothing. Finally, I think the real point here is that how we intervene in societies against violence is a function of moral and cultural ideas. For example, in our villages, if a child does something, or somebody does something, an elderly person can spark the person, kick, even when they injure you. You will go to the parents and say, your son was found, and the father will say, he did well. Today, because of the way the moral codes of our community, we don't feel morally obligated. And so we can't discuss this intervention without some moral code. That's why it sits in the communities. If you go to my village now and slap somebody, somebody from somewhere will come and hold you on the neck and drag you. But if you do that in Wuse right now, except relatives, everybody will first pause and calculate his moral obligation. Do I have a stake? I just give a short story. I saw a man with his son and the wife, and he put a child of 2 years in front of the vehicle, driving in the steering. I was so alarmed. I said, my friend, why did you do this thing? This is wrong. Stop, don't do this. The man almost boxed my eye off. It was after the incident that the wife, as I was with the wife, just turned, whispered, do like this, thank you, sir. Because she understood what my intervention wanted to prevent, a possible homicide, death. But the man took offense. Who dare you? Who are you? So next time, if I saw that kind of situation, I would be likely disposed to first pause and watch and wring my head and say, some parents don't get it.
Thank you so much, Professor Sam. Tracy, okay. Is you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay, after Tracy. Okay.
So I wanted to share my experience on the wrong intervention, rushing without skills. Actually, 2 stories. I'll be very brief. So the first happened in 2016. I was pregnant with my second child, heavy, close to delivery. And I heard my neighbor, the husband and the wife fighting. Now, that was not a new thing. We heard their voices raised and everything quarreling. But on this particular day, and she's a friend, neighbor turned friend. So she was screaming, like, you killed me today, or you killed me in Hausa. Zaka. And what I was thinking in my head at that time was, the man is on the big side, and the lady is, very petty and tiny. So as she was screaming like that, I was just having imaginations in my head of what could be happening. So I rushed in, with my big stomach. I went straight into the chaos. And really, but for my intervention, I am sure something very, very gory would have happened, honestly. The man was on top of her without his size, and she was already on her undies, a pant and a bra, and he was, even the size alone is enough to even suffocate her, and he was beating her, she was screaming. So with that kind of thing that I saw, I tried to pull him, and I pulled him. The next thing, she went into the kitchen to get a knife. I was in the middle, yes, I was in the middle of these two people. So, but after everything, I kept saying that if you push me down, you are going to kill me and my baby. That was, but I was just carried away, emotionally carried away with the fact that you are beating a fellow woman like me. Long story cut short, they halted their fight and everything, and I pulled her to my flat. So when my husband came, I was telling him, he said, in your life, you are trying to be Jesus Christ. Because if she had stabbed you, what will I say? You are trying to, so that's one. Then the second one also happened to my friend. She has had 2 girls, and she was pregnant with an only son. For the Igbos, we know what that means. No, she had 3 girls. So she was pregnant for the 4th child, and it was a boy. So you know how that kind of pregnancy is. Again, she went to a friend's house whose husband was beaten. In fact, she said the husband held the wife to the neck and pushed her to the wall. He had pushed her, used her head to hit the wall. The head came out like this, like it swelled out immediately. And then he held her neck to the wall. That if not for that, I know what the man did. The man pushed this, my friend, with the pregnancy, and she fell. But to God be the glory, nothing happened. So I'm just also saying that, yes, I agree with you. While we are trying to intervene, especially in cases of domestic violence, we should at least look at what is happening first, so that you don't rush, and then instead of rescue the victim, you also become a victim yourself.
Thank you very much, sir. Maybe a few things. Number one is that sometimes when we watch videos like this, let's not criticize the person who recorded it. It may be the only opportunity to put the message out. Because the case of Rivers was a case in point. Somebody who recorded that Holy Ghost baptism of those kids. It was because of that, when videos came out, maybe, I'm not saying I'm the only one who shared, but I knew I shared with the highest authority in Nigerian police. Within 24 hours, the police command in Rivers State released a press statement. And that was not just the first. Each time I share photos, gory pictures like that with Frank Uba, there's almost like a quick response. So that, for me, maybe that person recording may have tried to stop them time and again. So the best opportunity was just to record. But again, recording, was it good? But if you look at the case of the Akwa Ibom Airline and Comfort, which may be a different scenario. But in all honesty, after I got experience from US, I became very careful. When I was in Benin, if you beat your wife, I'll beat you. No, I will beat you. See, it was more like, no, normally I am almost like a black belt holder in karate. So I can beat you because I hate it. But after I saw some things, I was trying to run on the staircase to catch a train, metro line, and eventually my ankle got problem. People just deserted me. And in Nigeria, people will come after you and I help you. And I try to find out what happened. They say, if they touch you, now voila. So I became, sensitivity, new knowledge. So what I do, if I see something like that, even though I have the skill, I would rather use mouth than to physically engage. Because I physically engaged before, where the woman slapped me. I said, leave her and my husband. Because I was beating the husband. No, so you have to be very careful in the manner in which you respond. But above all, you need to respond. It's either you make a call or you use your mouth or something. Making a call may be very important. Even making a video becomes a reportage at that time. In all of this, let's not always criticize those who record, because at the end of the day, you may actually be silencing them from recording a bad thing. Even though I also have a case where when you record, where you have an opportunity to intervene, but we have had cases where accidents happen. The first is for people to report breaking news. They want to report first. So these are all manner of dynamics that we cannot put in the same box for interrogation. Thank you.
You need to make contact. Sorry, sir. I mean, I gave a case here, an illustration yesterday here about what happened in my own family house. You see, you must, in a way, find way to intervene. If you are not strong enough, if you are not beginning, the next thing is to make contact. You can even rush out and start shouting. People help will come. Then you just going in like that. So we must be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, yes.
Yes, still being a bystander or being a witness in a particular scenario, especially gender-based violence. This is this scenario within my environment. So they've known what I stand for. Not allowing or not seeing a man beating the wife. So there's this case not too far from my house, but they rushed to my house to come and call me. So when I got there, they said that's the usual practice between the man and the woman. So tactically, I engaged two guys within the neighborhood. So I said, please help me teach him some lessons. So they beat him. I took the two of them, the husband and the wife, and the people that helped me to separate them to the police station, where we forced the man to write an undertaking that he will no longer beat the woman. And that settled the whole thing. We all went to our houses. When I was now sharing the incident with my wife, I said, if it had to be that I did not intervene that way, I know if that young man that has beaten the man to stop beating the wife, get into the house again with the wife that night, yes, the beating will continue. But the police, the undertaking, he wrote with the police, and with the mandate that whenever he touches the wife should come and report him to them. So I know that he will just be sighing, look at the wife, if not for what I have signed, I will have killed you tonight. So tactically, there are ways we can intervene without pushing too much of our nose. For example, if I had gone there and think that I can fight alone, and is it even knife, just like the lady mentioned, and we cause ourselves havoc that we can no longer handle at the end of the day.
My own point is the natural instinct to intervene. It's just biological instinct. It depends on the severity and the volume of the altercation that sometimes determine. And at the community level, when we cascade this training, we will have a lot of feedback. Communality is close to biological relationship. An animal who wants to defend his own peer, like that. At the village level, another person will come and beat the person that is beating the other person to separate them. And for us at the urban level, communalism is not really in place. You are on your own if anything happens. But at the village level, you face the reward or the consequence of your action, more or less immediately. And so we don't need to condemn the skit or the video. We don't know the consequence, what will have happened thereafter. Few months back, my neighbor, they were just arguing among themselves in the night. I was already fast asleep. And my wife woke me up. He said, they are fighting over there. I said, what do you want me to do? I said, do you want me to open my gate and go and open another person's gate in around 12, 1 o'clock? I said, no. I said, let's wash. And I said, if there is any case of the man beating the wife, I will call the police. I said, that is the best I can do. If they are still crying, they said, I will beat you today. And you go to your father's house. You Oloshi. I said, I can still bear that. But once there is a case of beating the wife, because we don't know the extent of the beating, and the police station is just, I can easily walk to that place, and I already have friends there. I said, I will call them, and they will come and take the situation. And I went to sleep. Within 2 hours, I found them also talking to themselves as if nothing happened. I said, see yourself now. So we need to be tactical, especially at the urban level, so that Yoruba people will say, Olaja, Ole Fori Gbogbe, that if you don't take care of yourself, you are the one that will have the wound at the end of the day.
very quickly going to harp back to something I've been saying earlier, which is that the need for us not to act only on the basis of empathy, but that empathy is a spur to action. Doing nothing is what is prohibited, to do nothing. But we cannot say because we are empathetic, which is at the basis of emotion alone, they act only on the basis of emotion. Some reason, some rationalizing, some assessment of what exactly needs to be done that will be most effective. We need to think about that. Otherwise, all that we have been talking about now, especially in the case that has been shown, will be the result. Then, that said, I think that the time available sometimes to properly assess the situation and know what is the efficacious means of intervention is sometimes too short. And at the same time, you want to be sure that no life is lost or no grievous harm is inflicted or no irreversible harm is caused. So we can never have a hard and fast rule about how to intervene, but we always should still remind ourselves that we cannot act on the basis of our emotional feelings at that moment alone, but try however inchoately, however assess the situation and think of what is best to do before we act. I think that's a lesson for me in all of this.
Let's make progress. The final story.
The right intervention, using skills to prevent violence. It was a bright Saturday afternoon in Benin City, and the wedding reception was in full swing. The hall was decorated with white and gold drapes. The DJ blasted Davido's latest hit, and guests danced while plates of jollof rice and bottles of malt circulated. Everyone was in high spirits. At one corner of the hall, Adesuwa, a graceful young woman in a green lace dress, tried to enjoy her meal in peace, but a man who had taken too much to drink kept hovering around her. At first, he made jokes, then tried to pull her onto the dance floor. She politely declined, saying, "I'm fine here, thank you." Instead of respecting her wishes, the man grew more aggressive, tugging at her hand and saying loudly, "Why are you for me? Don't you know who I am?" Adesuwa's face tightened with discomfort. She looked around, but everyone seemed too busy dancing and laughing to notice. Or maybe they noticed, but did not want to get involved. That's when Osaron, a cousin of the groom, noticed what was happening. He could see the unease in Adesuwa's eyes, and it stirred something in him. He thought of his younger sister and how he would never want her to be treated that way. Instead of barging in angrily, Osaron remembered the intervention skills he had once learned in a GBV awareness session. He approached with a wide smile, clapped the man on the back as though greeting an old friend, and said carefully, "Ah, Oga, now you are the fine things. Come, let's go check out the bar." Then say free champagne, they flow for VIP corner. The drunk man, flattered and distracted, laughed and followed Osaron towards the drinks table. Meanwhile, Osaron had already caught the eye of the MC and signaled discreetly towards Adesuwa. The MC's assistant quickly moved to sit beside her, offering conversation and protection. After a few minutes of casual banter and drinks, Osaron leaned closely to the man and said quietly, "My brother, no vessel, but Adesuwa no dey comfortable. We are all here to celebrate love. Let's respect ourselves and keep it clean." His tone was firm but respectful. The man paused, sighed, and after a few grumbles, let it go. He went back to dancing with some of his friends. Later that evening, Adesuwa walked up to Osaron, her eyes glistening with relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't know how to get out of that situation without causing a scene. You saved me." Osaron smiled and replied, "You don't owe me thanks. We all have to look out for each other. That is how society gets better." As he watched her rejoin her friends, laughing and enjoying the wedding again, Osaron felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He knew that his calm, thoughtful intervention had prevented what could have been an ugly or even violent sin. Why Osaron's strategy works. Osaron used distraction. Am I supposed to read this? Osaron used distraction, redirecting the man with humor and drinks. 2, delegation, signaling the MC's team to support Adesuwa. 3, direct communication, quietly telling the man to respect Adesuwa's boundaries. The result was a safe, respectful resolution that protected Adesuwa without putting Osaron at risk.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you so much, Agbamu. So what can we learn from Osaron and Adesuwa's story? What intervention skills can we learn from how Osaron intervened in that situation? You want to say something? Okay.
And we all have to learn it to save others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Distraction. He distracted the man, and he did it very respectfully. He did it in a way that the man didn't know that he was distracting him. Okay, Dr. Samuel.
Very interesting about the person that intervened. He actually passed message to the guy so that he became empowered. Not do it next time. He's leaving some message to him in a polite way. That is what is so catchy and interesting about it. Like, no, not that I distracted him alone, but now I'm educating him to make sure that he respect women or he respect any person that he or she comes across. I think that is very powerful communication, the knowledge given. Thank you.
I agree with you. You use the opportunity to educate him. Okay, after him, please.
Okay, good morning again, once again, everyone. Osaron calculated the risks before deploying his tactics to work. That is what I learned. And over time, I found myself in both ways. The first time I tried without skills, I was also hospitalized with the person I went to rescue. And then I also learned lesson because just like Dr. Madi said, if anything happened, you see people videoing rather than helping. There is an incident that happened in Lagos, I think it went viral, where a 40-foot truck fell at a bus stop and fell on a lady's leg. People were filming when she was grooming in pains. And we were trying to see how we could help her out. I think she lost that leg. But this one was an accident where I was just driving out and she was hit. She fell in a gutter, cut the neck. What I could do was to rush her to the hospital with people around there. And then I didn't know that if they want to undergo operation, someone needs to sign. So they just gave me a form. I didn't read through and I signed, just to make sure the life was saved. And after all, we now checked her bag to see her contact address and phone number. So the mistake I did, because I didn't have the knowledge, I was still with the blood all over me. With the people, we now went to their house to at least inform them their daughter had an accident. And approaching the house, we just knocked the door. The mother came out. I was trying to put the mother in place to explain. She shouted, the brother came up. I didn't know what happened. I was slapped with a ring. My face was blooded, only for me to wake up around 7 p.m. that evening in the same hospital where we kept her to see. Now, I learned through the hard way. Each time I see such, I deploy this kind of tactics. So the last one was a lady in my church. She has been abused several times. And each time you want to intervene, she said leave because she doesn't have anywhere to go. So in my state, we have the GBV units under the Ministry of Justice. I said, since you don't have where to go, you can come here and lay your complaint. We will not take you out, but we'll teach him a lesson. So after they complained, they invited the husband, and they asked him to undertake and give him a lesson. And since then till now, I think 2 years now, they have been living peacefully. Just like he said, he would turn and look her. He remember what he signed. And so it's also good that we deploy tactics into this rather than neglecting. There will always be a way out to see how we could help humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pass it to Dr. Sam.
Intervention. I think, yeah, I agree with him. There's a way, but two experiences I will share. Oftentimes, what sustains this non-intervention is also ideas and notions we have about context. Oftentimes.